Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Apocryphal Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Friday Apocryphal and podcast. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering the Hymn of the Pearl,
the hymn of Judas Thomas, the apostle in the country of the Indians.
Huh?
Yeah, that's
the full title there?
That's the full title given by the translator of this, G.R.S. Mead.
Wow, okay.
Now, this is not a book. This is just something that Lawrence printed out.
Right, yeah, but it should be the Hymn of the Pearl.
Yes, which is the hymn of Judas Thomas, the apostle in the country of the Indians.
Yeah, I guess. It's really weird because, that's right. Because I remember there being this idea that Thomas was in India.
Oh.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Ideas today that Jesus was in India.
That too, yeah. Covering the Hymn of the Pearl. I think for next week's show, we're going to start The Shepherd of Hermas, which is a fairly influential book, and I ordered a commentary on that.
Wonderful.
From Hermenia. So this, the Hermenia series has done some stuff on apocryphal literature.
Hermenia is always excellent.
It is. And the thing is, they viewed that book as important enough to give it a commentary of its own, just like it's on the same level as First Enoch. Mm-hmm. So that's the importance that we'll be talking about there. But also, so next on Sunday, we'll be starting Ephesians. Yeah. So the first book of that came in. Now Hermenia doesn't have anything on Ephesians.
Oh, but this is the Anchor Bible.
Yeah, Anchor Bible. So pretty good stuff.
Yeah, the Anchor Bible is probably the second or third best.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. At least from the stuff that we've read, absolutely. And they've published on every single book.
Yes.
So
very useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But tell me more about this Hymn of the Pearl, and what are you reading from?
Well, you see, I am reading from Lost Scriptures, books that did not make it into the New Testament, from Bart Ehrman. This is to go along with his book, Lost Christianities, which I do recommend. It's a very good book. So, the Hymn of the Pearl. This translation is provided by J.K. Elliott in Apocryphal New Testament, used with permission.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so one of the most elegant compositions of early Christianity, the Hymn of the Pearl, is embedded in the 3rd century Acts of Thomas. However, I skipped an entire line there. Most scholars agree, however, that the hymn was composed by a different hand and at an earlier date. So there are the Acts of Thomas, and it contains multiple things, and this hymn was included in there. Yes. On the surface, it appears to be a simple folktale of a prince sent by his royal parents on a mission to snatch a pearl from the lair of a ravenous dragon in Egypt, only to arrive at his destination and forget his task and identity, needing a message from the royal court to be awakened from his torpor. I think that's how you say that word. And reminded of who he is. He then seizes the pearl and returns to the glories of his father's realm.
Oh, we have finally a proper hero story.
Yeah, right? About time.
It's been a long time. I mean, the Jesus story is kind of a hero story, but like the last time we had like an outright hero story was maybe even Maccabees, like at least on this show.
Right, on this show, yeah. It's definitely been a while.
Yeah. So let's hop into this.
I still have a few more things.
Oh,
here.
Well, tell me all about it.
Will do. The hymn may be something far more than a simple folktale, however. Hints within the text itself, such as the knowledge, or literally gnosis, connected with the prince's heavy garment, along with parallels to other literature, suggest that the story represents a Gnostic allegory of the incarnation of the soul, which enjoys a glorious heavenly existence, from which it descends to become entrapped in matter. So yeah, it descends to Egypt to become entrapped in matter, clothe myself in garments like theirs. Forgetting whence it came, the soul eventually relearns its true nature from a divine emissary. When it awakens to its true identity, it returns to its heavenly home where it receives the full knowledge of itself. If the Hymn of the Pearl was written in a Gnostic milieu, only later to be incorporated into the Acts of Thomas, it may have been composed sometime in the late 2nd century. And yeah, so this is probably going to, aside from it being an allegory, this is probably going to sound a lot like the other Gnostic stuff we read, especially the one that we read last, which has that kind of feeling of, so there's this real reality, and then you have to remember that real reality.
Yeah, you need gnosis.
Yeah.
So let me hop into it, because it seems pretty metal from what I've seen on this page, right? Starting the Hymn of the Pearl, translated by G.R.S. Mead. When, a quite little child, I was dwelling in the house of my father's kingdom, and in the wealth and the glories of my upbringers I was delighting. From the east, our home, my parents forth sent me with journey provision. Indeed, from the wealth of our treasure, they bound up for me a load. Large was it, yet it was so light that all alone I could bear it. Gold from the land of Beth Eliah, silver from Gazak the Great.
Oh, interesting here. So this translation is very different. Gold from the land above, silver from great treasuries.
So we don't have any commentary on Gazak the Great, huh?
No, that might have been, that sounds like a person's name, like a title and a name.
It definitely does.
So maybe that was, I don't know if that was meant to be like a, I don't know if that was a real person or not, right? But it could have been like another name for, I mean, in terms of the metaphor, this could have been like some person that was very, very wealthy. And the gold from the land above. I mean, we're already seeing the metaphor kind of form already.
Yeah, I don't see any obvious references to Gazak outside of Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem apparently has a Gazak.
Oh, I've heard of the Fire Emblem Gazak, actually.
And apparently there is a dessert or confection from India called Gajak.
Okay.
I'm looking at it right now. It's dry sweet, made of sesame seeds or peanuts and jaggery, cooked in raw sugar syrup and set in thin layers, which can be stored for months.
All right, that
It's like brittle.
That doesn't sound like could be right.
Yeah, it's like a
yeah,
cakey cracker thing.
yeah. I've seen stuff like that before.
Yeah. So
That is interesting, man. Some
maybe
commentary
more
would really be
baklava.
useful here on at least the translation.
We don't like commentary.
This is all we have is Indian confection stuff. Chalcedones of India. I received opals from Kashan. They girt me with adamant also that hath the power to cut even iron. My glorious robe they took off me, which in their love they had wrought me, and my purple mantle also, which was woven to match with my stature. So what's happening here is that he's given a mythical set of armor, and the robe and the purple mantle are taken from him. So we know that
so his real form is being taken away.
Yes, his physical body is being replaced with this adamant one.
Well, it looks like it's the opposite.
No, they gave him the adamant, but they took off the robe and they took off the mantle. Now, the mantle is purple, which is like royalty.
Yeah.
Right? And we already have established that his father has a kingdom.
It's interesting that yours says mantle there. So I have, and they girded me with steel in verse 8, and they took away from me the garment set with gems and spangled with gold, which they made out of love for me, and the yellow robe, which was made for my size.
Huh.
See, that sounds
very different.
That sounds like they're taking away his real celestial form, I guess, and putting on this human form.
Mm-hmm. Well, mine has adamant instead of steel, which is slightly more
Yeah.
something.
It's close enough to where it shouldn't change the meaning too much, but it's interesting that yours says purple instead of yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yours has more details about the other robe.
Yeah.
And with me, they then made a compact. In my heart wrote it, not to forget it. If you go down into Egypt, and thence you bring the one pearl, the pearl that lies in the sea, hard by the loud-bearing serpent, then shalt thou put on thy robe and thy mantle, and goeth upon it, and with thy brother, our second, shall thou be heir in our kingdom.
Yeah,
So-
and with your brother, our next in command, you shall be heralded for our kingdom. Okay, so in terms of the story,
yes, he's being
He's got a mission.
tasked with this mission to defeat the dragon and receive the treasure.
wow, this is
Fairly hero's journey,
yeah. All right, here we go.
but literal.
Yeah.
Literally defeat the dragon and get the treasure. I left the east and went down with 2 couriers with me. For the way was hard and dangerous, for I was young to tread it. I traversed the borders of Maishan, the mart of the eastern merchants, and I reached the land of Babel, and entered the walls of Sarbag. Down further I went into Egypt, and from me parted my escorts. Straightway I went to the Serpent. Near to his lodging I settled, to take away my pearl while he should sleep and should slumber. Lone was I there, yea, all lonely, to my fellow lodgers a stranger. However, I saw there a noble from out of the dawn land, my kinsman, a young man fair and well-favored, son of grandees. He came and he joined me. I made him my chosen companion, a comrade for sharing my wares with. He warned me against the Egyptians, against mixing with the unclean ones. For I had clothed...
Classic.
Yeah. Yes, very xenophobic. For I had clothed me as they were, that they might not guess I had come from afar to take off the pearl and so rouse the serpent against me.
Yeah, so yours says mixing with them. Mine has a little bit more of a, because yours can have multiple meanings, but mine has more of a generalized sense. So being exhorted to guard against the Egyptians and against partaking of unclean things. Yeah. So the mixing part, hey, you know what? That sounds sounding a lot like Ezra and Nehemiah there.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
but it seems more generally just partaking in unclean things, which I would think would stand closer in the understanding of post-exilic Judaism, because we've been talking about this on Aaron's show as well, about how one of the pieces of evidence for a later composition for the Joseph story is that they can interact with Egyptians in some ways, but not in others.
Yeah, and what's happening here is like he has this mission, and that's why he came to Egypt. But it says, "For I had clothed me as they were, that I might not guess that they might not guess that I had come for this." Right. So he's adopting this Egyptian custom to some extent. He's dressing as an Egyptian and trying to blend in with Egyptian society.
Yeah.
Now his companion is warning him, like, hey, don't go too far with that, because that's how you get in trouble.
Yeah, which would be a perfect metaphor for the Gnostic teachings, right? Like we all currently, are dressed in the same earthly garments, but the issue is if you take it too seriously for too long, you're gonna forget your mission.
Right. And there's this obstacle to the mission, and these other people around them are capable of rousing the obstacle against you. So you have to blend in with them. But from some occasion or other they learned I was not of their country. With their wiles they made my acquaintance. Yea, they gave me their victuals to eat. I forgot that I was a king's son, and became a slave to their king. I forgot all concerning the pearl for which my parents had sent me, and from the weight of their victuals I sink down into a deep sleep.
He fell into humanity. This is a grave mistake.
All this that now was befalling my parents perceived and were anxious. It was then proclaimed in our kingdom that all should speed to our gate, kings and chieftains of Parthia, and of the east of all the princes. And this is the counsel they came to. I should not be left down in Egypt. And for me they wrote out a letter, and to it each noble his name set. And that is where I will hand it off to you. You can start with this letter.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. And it's interesting that my translation does not include that they each they set their names.
Right.
Yeah, mine just has, so the courtiers wrote me a letter.
I feel like there's some liberties taken in each of these translations.
Yeah, that is true. I kind of wonder what the original language here was.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would be interesting if this is Greek, then I'd be able to help out here. But unfortunately, don't have the original text, and I don't think there's any commentary in there. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
it's just the translation.
It doesn't even say what it's translated from.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's all right though.
Translated from English to English.
Yes, but
by
hey,
us.
You guys out there, if you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, neighbors, confidants, people in foreign countries, all of them, so as to not stand out, of course.
And you know what I should do, actually? I'm going to share the fact that we are live right now.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
And you know where I'm sharing that?
you're sharing it on the Discord?
Yeah, I am sharing it on the Discord.
Oh, man, you should share it on the Discord. That's exactly where our fans can be in the most frequent contact with us that they can be,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah. Ruben went off on this thing about AI art.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's art. It's in the name. It's definitively art.
It's in the name. Yes, you're right. It is in the name. There's just the thing is, I would much rather like pay somebody for like a piece of artwork, because I know that.
But I mean, like, let's say that you're making a movie and you need like a whole bunch of fictional company logos that are just going to be like on some paperwork
Sure,
off on
yeah.
the side.
Or you want to make a custom setting and you just want some inspirational art for your background.
Like, you can use AI art as an asset to
Yeah.
create additional art, and that is inarguably art.
yeah.
You could be using art that, you know, you make a style and then you give it to an AI and it makes art for you. Like you design a style, you create a style, and then it makes a template and it turns that into more unique pieces with that style. You can even do that with regular art generations by saying, like, do a Van Gogh or do like a Picasso
Okay.
or whatever. But
yeah.
you
I
can also make your own style and make an AI that makes your art.
Yeah, I got
Well,
you. But there's
like-
something less artistic about all
Well,
that.
like,
Oh, sure,
look,
you can even see
if
it.
I'm playing an instrument, like an electronic instrument,
Yeah.
like if I just have an electronic keyboard, I might have like an arpeggiator on there, and that's gonna play a whole bunch of notes more than what I'm actually
yeah.
touching. Nobody seems to have an issue with it when musicians use literal AI scripts in order to like add on to whatever music that they're playing. And I don't see what the issue is, right? Like, this is something
Like, it doesn't
that
diminish the
musicians
value of
have
real
been
art.
dealing with, like, in music for decades, and it's just like not a big issue.
So I know that in music, a lot of the time, what you would do is you would first you would play something, and you'd record it, and then you'd like have it on repeat or something, right? Or
And you
loop it a
might,
certain way.
well, when you're making a track, right, you're gonna record each instrument separately. You're probably gonna have some kind of digital editing of that. Various.
I mean, I don't think
filters
anyone in
and
art's
stuff.
ever been like against like any kind of digital editing or
Yeah,
like,
but like if we look at what the actual process is. Like, you could, on analog, do pretty much everything that you could do digitally. Not everything, but pretty much everything. And like it would just be like a very long, tedious process. What they've done digitally is they've automated that process for you, right? So, like, yeah, that's using an AI, I would say. Like, it's an automated system that intelligently deciphers your inputs and makes what you want from it.
I guess, but I don't know enough about how that stuff works to make a comparison there.
No, it's just something people will have to get used to, I think. It's kind of like, you can't diminish the value of painted art this way, per se,
Well,
even if an
maybe
artificial,
not painted art per se.
or like sculptures or
Sure.
ancient, photos or whatever.
But I would say that, like, because like some of that AI art is pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
Right?
So like I could definitely see like why someone on a budget would choose to put something into an AI rather than pay somebody to make a piece of artwork.
Yeah. But like there's the argument that it's copying people's work.
The thing is, I don't know if you've seen that one picture, but there's this one really famous picture of, I think it was some Arab woman. She had green eyes, and it was like on the cover of like Time or something, I think once. And the AI used that as the basis for every single image that it came out with.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked so similar to all of them with like slight modifications, right? Like a little bit of lighting here, a little bit of watercolor style there.
So that's like obviously a bad application
Yeah.
of the technology. But like theoretically, I think every artist that I know learned how to do art by making fan art of copyrighted characters without
Copyrighted
permission.
characters, sure, yeah, definitely.
And like even by making outright copies of copyrighted images.
Yeah, like one of the only things I can draw is Stewie Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That one's kind of easy, actually.
Didn't know you could do that. I could draw Kirby.
Nice circle you have there, buddy.
Yo,
Nice.
Thanks.
I think that people are just worried because it can like learn how to make certain styles of art very quickly, whereas it takes humans a long period of time to develop it as a skill.
Sure. I think the next step would be just developing new styles of art, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, figure it out.
Well, we've
Come on.
always had to develop new styles of art.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Like and it's hard for us, without having access to new styles, and we're not really inventors of styles of artwork. So, like when
We could try.
yeah, we
I've
could
tried
try.
things. I don't know that I would ever call anything an invention. I'd just call it experimenting
Yeah.
with a new style. But
Yeah,
I
I make hypersonic music. I use pitches that are outside of the range
Wow,
that
that's-
humans can hear.
That's beautiful.
But it's all mathematically accurate. It would sound good if you could hear it.
Right. So like one of the so if back in the day, right? So before there was metal music, right? Like we had already a ton of genres.
Oh yeah.
Right? Do you think like the people at the time were like, well, I don't know where music could possibly go from here. I don't know how many different ways you can make something sound good.
I think that it's a lot different with the internet because traditionally, like medieval traditionally, you would have like a musician who would go place to place and would like develop music as they would go, at least in terms of folk music. But when it comes to like these bands that were signed on with these huge contracts, they have a certain amount of popularity that you would see like in the 20th century. But it's a lot more regional and a lot more localized. What we have now in the music industry is like this weird mishmash where like you do have the huge pop stars, but most people I think are actually using these like digital platforms like Spotify or
Yeah.
and that's like building an AI based thing that suggests things based off of their tastes rather than what's being advertised to them
True.
at all. But at the same time, we still have those popular things. So those are being broadcast on a larger scale than ever before. And so like a lot of the regional differences in music that you would see in the past are not so apparent right now. And I think you can notice that if you look at like, especially in electronic music, like music made in various parts of Europe doesn't seem to have like a super distinct sound, whereas the acoustic music of 200 years prior between those places was completely different, right? So I think we're seeing like a totally different evolution of how we produce music and how we even look at like music production in general. I think that
and it's interesting because it doesn't even eliminate the old stuff. It usually just people take interest in it again, even if it dies out. You know, just the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some interest in like Mozart, right? Just,
there always
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's classic still until it isn't in 2,000 years.
I feel like people are still going to listen
it a
to it
new
in
name.
some form.
They won't call it classic. That's when they change it to something else. Something else gets called classic at that point, Lawrence. It's 2,000 years from now.
No, because we refer to the Greeks, at least part of it, as the classical period.
Yeah, but
where the classics
it's
came
a different
different kind of thing.
It's a different context. It's a different lexicon, right?
It is.
So
yeah.
when we talk about classical music, actually there are multiple ways to think about it, right? Because there's the classical period, which is prior to the Romantic period and after the Baroque period. But like in popular culture, when we talk about classical music, people have like weird ideas where it's like, oh, this can range from early medieval choral music all the way up until like modern film soundtracks, right? But like it's not very clear cut.
Yeah.
I think that usually like the ancient Greek stuff, what we would consider the classical period, would be considered ancient music.
Yeah,
rather
definitely.
than classical music.
Right, and I
The
think in
music from
2,000 years, the idea of what we call classical have shifted a bunch. So that's all I'm throwing out there.
Yeah, we have to keep renaming periods, or we could just name the new periods, I guess. I feel like that would be easier, but
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they'll have their own modern lens and they'll put their own verbiage to it.
yeah, they will. Anyways, I'm going to read off this letter.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
talking
But
for
that's the
21
kind of stuff you can talk about in the Discord.
Right.
Yeah. So, from your father, the King of Kings, and your mother, the Mistress of the East, and their brothers who are second to us, to our son in Egypt, greetings. Awake and rise from your sleep. Listen to the words in this letter. Remember, you are the son of kings. You have fallen beneath the yoke of slavery. Remember your gold-spangled garment. Recall the pearl for which you were sent to Egypt. And this is supposed to be a letter from
The
courtiers.
parents of the character that we're following. I think this character is like a figurative, Moses figure, right? So he's, or like something of the Abrahamic lineage, right? That's what they're trying to communicate, right? Because it starts off with this relationship. Maybe it's a Jesus figure, right? This relationship between this child and the mother and father, which is the Trinity within Gnosticism, basically.
True.
And he's given this task, much as Abraham was given a task, right? And then that
I feel like that would be an interesting video idea, right? I'd talk about like the Gnostic Trinity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool because I think it's more rational.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yes.
Write that down, Lauren.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I can write it down.
But much like Abraham, he's given this task, and then much like the descendants of Abraham, this brings him to Egypt over time, And then he finds himself in slavery, like the Hebrews were in the Exodus story. And then he's given a new message, like Moses was from the burning bush after having fallen, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot closer to the Jesus figure, though, I would say.
Yeah, well, Jesus is supposed to be the new Moses, right?
That is true. It's supposed to be new Moses, new Isaiah, new whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Man.
A prophet
new
like
Adam.
Moses.
Yeah. Prophet like Moses, a new Adam, too. He's supposed to be the new everything. He's supposed to be the culmination, the fulfillment of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Which for some reason includes things that aren't the law.
Yeah, I know. But the reason is because it became a generalized term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it became a generalized term to say that it's the writings, right? Would be everything,
right.
Which would include not only the writings and the prophets, but also the law.
Right.
So, yeah, but
the
they're
Tanakh.
Yeah. Either way, they're asking him to remember what he was really there for.
Simba, remember
What am I
who
there
you
for
are.
What? Who are you? Anyways, your name has been called to the book of life, together with that of your brother whom you have received in your kingdom. And the king sealed it to make it an ambassador. Because of the wicked Babylonian children and the tyrannical demons of the labyrinth.
What?
Holy shit.
Mine says the tyrannical daimons of Sarbag.
Oh, of course. Good old Sarbag Daimon.
Sarbag the Labyrinth. I also remember that. I don't. Is that the word for labyrinth? I don't think so. I rose from sleep when I recognized its voice.
There's just some random things in... Okay, so there's a Punjabi word.
Okay.
Which means omniscient.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what the historical link there would be. Like, yeah, I guess there's a reason. There's a reason that translation includes that it's from India, right?
Who is this guy? G.R.S. Mead?
Yeah, let's look into him. So yeah, this translation again is from J.K. Elliott. So that is very interesting. I'm gonna have to maybe check back into that one. So
George Robert Stowe Mead. 22nd of March, 1863 to the 28th of September, 1933.
Okay, so he's...
Was an English historian, writer, editor, translator, and influential member of the Theosophical Society.
Oh, no.
As well as the founder of the Quest Society. His scholarly works mainly dealt with the Hermetic and Gnostic religions of late antiquity and were exhaustive for the time period.
Theosophical Society.
Yes.
Fuck.
But he was in charge of the Quest Society, composed of 150 defectors of the Theosophical Society and 100 other new members. This society was planned as an undogmatic approach to the comparative study and investigation of religion, philosophy, and science. The Quest Society presented lectures at the old Kensington Town Hall in central London, but its most focused effort was in its publishing of The Quest, a quarterly review, which ran from 1909 to 1931, with many contributors.
That sounds like the least peer-reviewed thing.
Well, it is. All right, it was a breakaway where they wanted to be undogmatic.
Yeah, okay, I guess that's nice.
Nice.
Anyways, Theosophy, oh my God.
Yes.
I'm going to continue with this. Glad we have this translation as well. So, I rose from sleep when I recognized its voice. I took it up and kissed it, and I read. And what was written concerned that which was engraved on my heart. Is that being the book of life?
Does yours not have the eagle?
No.
Okay, the tyrannical diamonds of Sarbag. It flew in the form of an eagle, of all the winged tribes, the king bird. It flew and it alighted beside me and turned into speech altogether. At its voice and the sound of its winging, I waked and arose from my deep sleep.
Oh, that's why. Because this is missing 3 verses.
Oh.
That's interesting. Why would they only take out? Oh, yeah, there are other ones actually. It looks. I'm looking over this now, and it looks like there are other verses that have been taken out.
I'll bring it up when it happens.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just checking over the stuff that we went over
Bart Ehrman.
before. Bart, yeah, what are you doing, man?
Why would you do this?
Again.
You just took verses out.
I don't know why.
You dropped the eagle.
Maybe
man.
he was the recent scholarship has been these verses aren't original or something. Maybe
he had a page limit. And yeah. You know what?
He didn't have a page limit. No.
You could have included those verses.
You could have easily. Man, okay, if we ever get Bart on the show,
We're going to ask.
We're going to ask him a lot of questions about this book.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing you could ask Bart Ehrman.
So anyways, the thing that's being sealed is, of course, the Book of Life. And I immediately remembered that I was a son of kings and that my freedom demanded my people. I remembered the pearl for which I had been sent to Egypt and the fact that I had come to snatch it from the terrifying serpent. I subdued it by calling out my father's name. And I snatched the pearl and turned about to go to my parents.
So that yours skipped some stuff.
It skips, skips verse 60.
And I began then to charm him, the terrible, loud-breathing serpent. I lulled him to sleep and to slumber, chanting o'er the name of my father, the name of our second, my brother, and the name of my mother, the East Queen. And thereon I snatched up the pearl.
Interesting. Okay. And I took off the dirty clothing and left it behind in their land, and directed my way forthwith to the light of our eastern home. And on the road I found a female who lifted me up. She awakened me, giving me an oracle with her voice, and guided me to the light. The royal silken garment shone before my eyes. Looks like there's a verse missing here.
Mine's very different.
Yeah, so I'll finish this off here. So, the royal silken garment shone before my eyes, and with familial love, leading me and drawing me on. So there is apparently a verse missing there. But yeah, you said yours was quite different.
Quite different. On the road I found there before me my letter that had aroused me, as with its voice it had roused me. So now with its light it did lead me, on fabric of silk and letter of red, with shining appearance before me, encouraging me with its guidance, with its love it was drawing me onward. I went forth through Sarbag I passed, I left Babylland on my left hand, and I reached into Maishan the Great, the meeting place of the merchants that lieth hard by the seashore.
Yeah, so I do have the rest of that, but it's interesting that yours was. It said it was a book. It was the book.
The letter.
The letter. Sorry, the letter. I'm actually writing this down because that's interesting. So this might be an issue where there is a. So this happens in Greek a lot, and I don't know if this would apply here as well. So in Greek, you can sometimes use just the article to refer to something else in the sentence or something that even hasn't been mentioned yet, and it depends on the case of the article. So if they were using a nominative or something. Well, how did this show up here? For the
female.
Yeah. So the letter was so the courtiers wrote me a letter. So they wrote a letter, so this would be an accusative, right? So if this was in accusative tense, then because it's the object of the sentence. If this was in the accusative tense, I could see a reason why they would link it. If it's just an accusative article is what I'm saying. If it's just the word the in an accusative case.
But it doesn't like follow.
Hold on.
Like,
Listen. So if you use it that way, I could see the translation of it being the letter. But on the road. Oh, interesting. Yeah. And on the road, I found a female who lifted me up. So this could also. Actually, no. If it's translated as a female, then, I guess you could use it, right? Yeah, you could use a substantival usage where you just have an article, but they don't have indefinite articles in Greek, so I'm not sure.
It completely changes the meaning of the passage.
Yeah, it does.
So, okay.
Yeah. Well, whatever he found lifted him up, right? So yeah, and with familial love leading me and drawing me on, I passed by the labyrinth and leaving Babylon behind on the left.
Yeah, why would he draw familial love from a random female that he met on the road?
Right, yeah.
It makes more sense to be the letter.
This is, right, but also a letter.
The letter being sent from
the
his
letter's
parents.
magical, I guess, in a way, right?
Well, the letter was sent from his parents.
It was, yeah. Which is, of course, being the Gnostic message.
Which is literally what they just brought up prior to this happening, right? You literally read off the letter. So yeah, it makes more sense for it to be the letter. I don't get it.
Well, so why would you say you found the letter that lifted you up? Because you already had the letter, presumably.
Mine says, see.
Yeah, and I directed my way forthwith to the light of our eastern home, and on the road I found a female who lifted me up.
Look, what happened was he put the serpent to sleep, he grabbed the pearl, and then he started going east. He took off all of his Egyptian clothing and stuff. And then he took off. And then on the road he finds the letter, which is presumably something which he had taken off as part of the clothing or had left behind, and he wanted to grab it before he left. Right? That's my interpretation.
I could see that.
Right. Otherwise, why would
thing.
this random female give him familial love?
I don't know. Maybe there's something about this female. Maybe she's like Sophia or something, right?
Maybe.
That was what I was thinking. But yeah, anyways, I reached Mason, which is a great coast. Now I'm missing 4 verses in here. But then it goes on to say, but I could not recall my splendor, for it had been when I was still a child and quite young that I had left it behind in my father's place. That palace.
So you missed a lot.
Yeah.
The meeting place of the merchants that lieth hard by the seashore. My glorious robe that I'd stripped off, and my mantle with which it was covered, down from the heights of Hyrcania. Thither my parents did send me, by the hands of their treasure dispensers, who trustworthy were with it trusted. Without recalling its fashion in the house of my father, the childhood had left it. Yeah, it's your...
Okay. So he doesn't quite remember that splendor he got when he was still in his real form, right? The veiled metaphor here.
Well, now that he's completed his task, right? He's gone through this great effort, and it's common in the hero's journey for the hero to have a rude awakening upon coming home, right?
True.
Frodo in Lord of the Rings, right? He literally can't even stay there anymore. He takes off to a whole nother country because it's just not comfortable for him. So maybe that's what's going on here with reference, because yours drops off the robe and mantle thing entirely there, which if we're interpreting this with the robe and mantle being part of it, then he's saying, oh, well, these things like the earthly body, which previously I had been concerned with, after going through this journey, I am no longer concerned with.
Yeah.
right? Which is a more like satisfying direction for the characters. So I wonder why he leaves it out.
It is interesting. But when suddenly I saw my garment reflected as in a mirror, I perceived in it my whole self as well, and through it I knew and saw myself. For though we originated from the one and the same, we were partially divided. Then again, we were one, with a single form. So, who is we? Being the parents, I'm guessing?
I saw it. Okay, I think
I saw it in the mirror. Yeah, because the last other person that could be talking about would.
he's talking about
His
the
parents?
pleroma, right?
Well, yeah. It would be that, that greater reality.
Seeing all of it, and he's saying everything's twain in distinction, and yet again one in one likeness, right? So it's like a qualified non-dualism where there are these distinct entities, but they are all simultaneously a singular unity, right?
Oh yeah, this is closer to Brahman and like what's it called?
Vishishtadvaita actually is the qualified non-dualism movement, right? Because it wouldn't be like Advaita Vedanta. It would be like
because what I'm thinking of is right because the reason why we're able to differentiate things is because like yes you have Brahman, right, which I always pictured like a sea kind of, and then any kind of wave would be something that you could that would be like a manifestation as something discrete. This is the way I always pictured it, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
So like I think it's called Leela, right? Those like little like manifestations.
Cross.
I think that's the name of it.
Yeah.
So
not sure about the terminology, but I get what you mean. And yeah, that is more consistent with like a qualified non-dualism, because like the non-qualified non-dualists, like the Advaita Vedantas, would be like, yes, it is a wave and it isn't a wave, and it is and it was not, and it will be and it never will be, and all of these things are true.
that is not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
Continuing on here. So yeah, they're one form, right? Or he sees them as a single form. The treasures two who had brought the garment, or the treasurers two who had brought the garment, I saw as two beings, but there existed a single form in both, one royal symbol consisting of two halves.
Okay, mine is different. So they were twain, and yet as of one likeness, for one sign of the king was upon them.
Oh, sign of the king. That's something else. Okay.
Is this like the oneness
Do
of
you
God
think?
thing?
Hold on. Do you think that translator Mead didn't pick up on the Gnostic meaning? Because he's throwing in. There's a lot of extra stuff that is making it a very real world thing, like this of the king stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's tying it into like our reality, and
Well, I think when he says the sign of the king, right? When we're
it could be
talking
interpreted
about
as like a sign of God, right? In its form,
right? It's a sign of God, and like I think it draws into that like oneness of God idea, where like there's like this godness that is the thing by virtue of which everything's part of the pleroma, right?
Yeah, but I could also see like there might be a reason there why the translation would say letter instead of female. Because in a context where we could interpret this as Sophia, there, like, I guess, okay, so which, this is why having an original language would be nice here. I could, if he didn't interpret it as a Gnostic text, which actually, hold on, at the time he would have been doing this, we would have known nothing. We would have known very, very little about Gnosticism.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
latest was like what, 1920 or so.
I think, God, when did they discover Nag Hammadi? 1930s, 1940s? So, but the thing is, even before that, there was speculation in like the 1920s where I think Walter Bauer, I think he wrote a very famous book, and he from that point in time before we discovered Nag Hammadi, right? He had done a lot of speculating and theorizing about these early Christian movements. The book is called Orthodoxy and Heresy in Early Christianity. I think that's the name of the book. And he's been, some of the stuff has been shown to be right. Some of it was shown to be wrong. But yeah, he wrote it before the Nag Hammadi library was discovered. So, and this was probably translated before that too, right?
Well, let's probably, I'm not sure, but let's consider who Mead's target audience is, right? He's intending to publish for an audience of like 300-400 ex-theosophists, and like he's trying to make it more academic. He still has to communicate to them in terms that they understand. So for the text to be actually useful in translation, some liberties must have had to have been taken.
Yeah, absolutely. Liberties, sure. But I feel like there might have been a chance that he didn't get the full meaning of the text because he would have translated it probably, much, far earlier or far before we actually discovered Nag Hammadi and were able to tie in a lot of pieces for our view of Gnosticism. So anyways, just some stuff to think about, I guess. And they had my money and wealth in their hands and gave me my reward. The fine garment of glorious colors, which was embroidered with gold, precious stones, and pearls to give a good appearance. It was fastened at the collar, and the image of the King of Kings was all over it. Stones of lapis lazuli had been skillfully fixed to the collar.
Oh, mine has some details, yours doesn't.
Okay,
So,
sure.
Glorious robe, all bespangled, sparkling splendor of colors with gold, and also beryls, chalcedonies, iris-hued opals with sards of varying colors to match its grandeur. Moreover, it had been completed with adamantine jewels. All of its seams were off fastened. Then,
Wow. That is quite different in some details. And I saw in turn that motions of knowledge were stirring throughout it.
gnosis.
Yep. And that it was prepared to speak. Wow.
Oh.
The pearls, the necklace, his collar was prepared to speak. Then I heard it speak. It is I who belong to the one.
Yours sucks. Okay, I heard the sounds of its music, which it whispered as it descended. Behold!
Behold!
Him, the active in deeds, for whom I was reared with my father. I too have felt in myself how that with his works waxed my stature. There you go.
Well, I'm going to still read this one anyways. It is I who belong to the one who is stronger than all people, and for whose sake I was written about by the Father himself. And I took note of my stature, and all the royal feelings rested on me as its energy increased. Thrust out by his hand, the garment hastened to me as I went to receive it. And a longing aroused me to rush and meet it and to receive it. And I stretched out and took it and adorned myself with the beauty of its colors. And I covered myself completely with my royal robe over it. When I had put it on, I ascended to the land of peace and homage. And I lowered my head and prostrated myself before the splendor of the Father who had sent it to me. So now this is getting like, so it started off as like, kind of like this folktale metaphor, right? But now we're getting into a very explicit portion about him actually fucking ascending.
Let's think about this in terms of the metaphors that have already been established, right? we can interpret this as a Christian metaphor, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, it's specifically a Gnostic one.
yes, a Gnostic interpretation, and I think maybe to an extent a personification of the Hebrews and the Jews to some extent. Now we can say that this is like the new tradition that has come in, and by virtue of having gone through those previous trials that are established within the Jewish tradition, much like Jesus's whole message, right? Now you actually have access to this ascension, or at least this hero does, right? Because he unlocks the wisdom by defeating the dragon, and he actually deceives the dragon to defeat it instead of fighting it, because it's better to be, work smart, not hard.
True.
Right. And then
smart.
afterwards, he's able to achieve his gnosis.
Which works great if you're blending in, right? Which he was trying to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe this is like a metaphor of the Gnostic view, basically being the new dispensation, right? It's like this is the accurate way to view things, and like
Also, how to go about actually living your life too.
right. I mean, if you want to interpret it like ethically, like prescriptively, then we can say that it brings all those like hero's journey messages that are like, oh, you have to go out on the quest and defeat the big bad and gain the reward from doing that. And once you've gained that reward and you've reflected upon it, then you actually have gained what's more worthwhile, which is the gnosis.
Right. Yeah. Which it did say that he got right. Yeah. He did. Yeah. For it was I who had obeyed his commands, and it was I who had also kept the promise, and I mingled at the doors of his ancient royal building. Interesting. He took delight in me and received me in his palace. All his subjects were singing hymns with harmonious voices. He allowed me also to be admitted to the doors of the king himself, so that with my gifts and the pearl I might appear before the king himself. So yeah, the attainment of gnosis.
Yes. And this, the hymn of Judas Thomas the Apostle, which he spoke in prison, is ended.
Right, the link there to Thomas, yeah, because it was part of the Acts of Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of the hymn of the pearl?
I liked it.
Pretty good.
I liked it a lot, actually. I'd probably give it an 8 or a 9, honestly.
Wow.
That was pretty good.
I mean, considering what we read on this show.
Right, yeah.
I'll give it a 9.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? This is great. I'll give it a 9.5.
Great.
Wow. That's pretty good. Yeah, but I enjoyed the Hymn of the Pearl. This was had a lot of, even though we had those weird translation issues, I feel like those added more to our understanding of it somehow.
Yeah. Now we know more about Mead, or at least that guy named Mead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still not a mead expert.
We have tons
I
of...
drink more rum than I do mead.
I tried a blackberry mead the other day. That was quite good. I got it at Otto's. You should buy it.
Okay.
I'm not sponsored by Otto's, and I'm not talking to our audience, so I'm not encouraging people to engage in drinking alcohol. Just you.
I might be encouraging it,
Wow.
but I said
What
might.
do you want?
What? Drink.
Whatever you want.
Drink
Audience.
more. No, you.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I could have
Yeah, drink more.
Drink more.
Water.
No, get drunk.
Oh, jeez.
Just chug that vodka that we have.
Constantly.
Gosh, no.
Well,
I knew you couldn't.
that was that. Hey, everybody, check us out on Patreon and our Amazon wish list and our Teespring. And, there's all sorts of great things in all of those locations. You can find them everywhere.
Yeah, and you know what? Next, or I guess on Sunday, we'll be giving away a shirt.
Yes.
Yeah. And let's see what else.
Which means that you should become a $50 patron even though it only costs $10 a month
Just for the shirt.
for the t-shirt giveaway. But you should become a $50 patron today.
Yeah.
So that you can at least know that you're in the running for the shirt.
just to be sure.
For some reason, our shirt isn't pinning.
Yeah,
here,
it's taking a while to.
Really glitching.
Yeah. Well,
but the links are all in the description.
They are. Let's see what else. What else we got? Yeah, we're gonna have a new person on this month too.
Who's gonna be on?
One of our patrons. I don't know if she wants a name reveal or not.
We shan't do that until we know.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea.
But our patron will be on, and we'll be reading the Bible.
The Bible.
Okay, the Bible. We'll be reading the Bible like we do every Sunday. I guess we don't really get patrons who want to hang out on Fridays.
No, but I think Fridays they're fun. They're relaxed.
Yeah, it's easy. There's just Apocrypha, Pseudepigrapha.
Right, but I think the reason why it might be more difficult is because access to these texts are not as common as access to a biblical text and commentary.
People haven't heard of these.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah.
Who knows about the Hymn of the Pearl?
Literally.
The 5 people
that are watching
right now. You're the only people out there who know. I bet there's Bart Ehrman.
Right.
He's just not responding to any questions that we ask.
Unfortunately.
He's trolling us, right?
So total looks like we've had 29 people watching the stream. And so those guys know about it.
Yeah.
We know about it. Bart Ehrman knows about it.
Watch this later.
Bart Ehrman might be one of those people.
I doubt it, but yes, he could be.
Yeah.
Very exclusive club here.
Yeah.
Knowing about the Hymn of the Pearl, but I enjoyed it.
See, this is secret gnosis that you only get through Milwaukee atheists.
Right, and Gnostic Trinity, that is something. That is something.
Yeah. Well, that's it. See you on Sunday.
I guess. See you on Sunday.